Africa is always blaming the West for its failures. Africans are always blaming white people, or rather Europeans, for all their failures. Even in situations that just call for accountability, you'll hear an African trying to excuse a mistake by probably claiming that we were colonized, or probably claiming that these people are taking away our resources. Now, this is it. If at all they are taking away our resources, then it simply kind of proves the theory that Africa is poor because it's rich. And I'll be explaining that in a few. Just stay with me, please. Let's first begin with the victim mentality that exists in Africa. Some people claim, and mostly I'm talking about content creators from Africa who are on this platform, they are out here spreading the white man tried to paint a picture in our head. The white man brainwashed us into thinking that we are inferior. How? Nobody brainwashed us in the first place. When I say that there are better opportunities in the West, or rather America holds better opportunities, or even Canada holds better opportunities, then an African mind may come and maybe tell me that that's Eurocentric brainwash. No, it's a fact. It's the truth. Our African countries do not provide us greener pastures. They do not provide us good opportunities. And back to the point that I was trying to say, the victimhood, everything is kind of centered around this victim mentality, that even facts now are debunked using feelings. And for example, African countries do not have proper facilities. They do not have good roads. We do not have proper healthcare systems in Africa. But then when I call out these things, people do not want to be accountable. The minister of probably roads in my country will say, we'll get money, we'll receive funding, trillions of shillings, or rather millions of dollars, and then squander the cash. And then thereafter, content creators here on the internet will be spreading the narrative that we do not have roads because we were colonized. We do not have roads because of Eurocentric brainwash. We do not have roads because the white man is suppressing us or is still oppressing us. So, assuming that the Minister of Roads in my country will receive the funding and just go ahead and build proper roads or proper road networks, then how would it be that I don't know if you're getting the point, that the minister goes ahead and squanders the money, and then thereafter, the excuse that we give, instead of holding the minister accountable, we want to blame the white man, even in situations that only call for accountability. In the school that I attended, or rather the university that I attended, I'm talking about University of Nairobi. It's one of the most ranked or the best ranked universities in Africa. And by saying that, it means that it's one of the best universities in Africa. In fact, it's called a world class in Africa. Anyway, most of the buildings in that university were built during colonial era or during the colonial era. So ever since we got independence, ever since we began having our own African government, the buildings that have been built there, or rather the infrastructure, or rather the development that has been made in that university, is little compared to that infrastructure that was built during the colonial days. So what does that say? Does it probably insinuate, or does it mean that we were better off during the colonial era? Now, Most people will not agree with me, but that is a fact. And I am telling you firsthand. You can go or you can Google, you can look it up on the internet, an institution like University of Nairobi. You'll realize, and I know it's not an exception. It's not like it's the only university that has the situation going or is facing such kind of a problem. I'm quite sure that all the other universities, probably even Pretoria University, universities in Johannesburg, universities in Zimbabwe, universities in Tanzania, Uganda, I'm quite sure they're facing such kind of problems. They do receive funding, but what do our corrupt politicians do? They squander the money. They get away with all these millions of shillings. We have donors donating money from the West. We have people from the West, not so rich people, just average Americans, average Canadians donating to Africa. But where does the money go? It's simply squandered, or it's simply misused by corrupt politicians. Yet these politicians are the same people that are spreading the narrative that Africa is not yet free, and all our problems are problems that can be rooted to the colonizer. All our problems are problems that are caused by the West. How are all our problems caused by the West, if at all we can receive funding or aid from the West? Aid that is supposed to better our healthcare system, donations that are supposed to better our education, donations that are supposed to better our infrastructure in Africa, and then all that money ends up in the pockets of corrupt politicians. And Africa can really scale up, and Africa can really change. And Ibrahim Traore is just but an example and a proof to this. Yes, the West has its own flaws, and they have their own interests that maybe they may be taking our resources from here. But come to think of it, I said it at the beginning of the video that Africa is poor because it's rich. In the case whereby we have something like probably a mineral like limestone. This is something that is used to manufacture, let's say, cement. We have that natural resource in form of limestone. But for us to process it into cement, what do we need? We need a factory. For us to have that factory, what do we need? We need labor. For us to have labor, we need housing. We need proper healthcare for these laborers to get healthcare whenever they get sick. We need to have institutions that educate these laborers. We need to have proper infrastructure. I mean, we need to have proper roads so that the raw materials can be transported to the factory. You see, we need to have schools whereby the children of these laborers will be going. You see, and by having all these institutions, what do we have? We may just have a town or a city just centered around this single natural resource. But while that is supposed to be the case, or while that is the case in the West and most civilized societies, that's not the case in Africa. In Africa, a case in point, let's say again, we have limestone as a natural resource, and we want to manufacture it into cement. What do we need? A corrupt politician gives the tender to a foreign company willingly, simply because he'll get something in return. So he gives the tender to a foreign company, gets something, some corruption money, gets the money in his pocket. The private developers, or rather the people who have secured that tender from a Western country, come get the minerals, go with the minerals, and that's the end of the story, sadly. All the money goes to the pockets of these corrupt politicians, while we at the bottom here remain complaining. So that is how Africa is poor, because it's rich. It's rich because it has so many natural resources, not just limestone. That is the case for all the minerals. We have kids who are employed by probably Chinese investors here in Kenya, hungry kids toiling all day long mining gold, or trying to mine minerals in very huge quarries you cannot believe. So, and all this is happening while our politicians are the ones benefiting. You donate money to Africa, you're donating to a corrupt politician. We here in my country, Kenya, we have a yearly budget of about 4.35 trillion. Yes, and the money, and I'd say Kenya is a country which is able to get that money, because we get that money on a year or on a yearly basis. So the money is given or is disbursed to several institutions or ministries, but then it does not get to do the work. First, it goes into the pockets of these corrupt politicians. And then we want to blame the West for not having roads. We want to blame the West for having our children toiling in quarries. We want to blame the West. It's always blame game. Blame game after blame game. No accountability. I think it's high time that Africans now be accountable.